Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today is on managing stress. We're going to talk about the kinds of stress there are and the kinds of ways stress affect us. We'll talk about the antidotes for stress and how to live in a much less stressed way.
There is so much to discuss when we approach this field of stress and the negative effects that it has on us and the benefits that accrue when we begin to manage this stress, that we've decided to organize it into three areas for you. We're going to talk about physical stress and distress, about the emotional nature of stress and how that works, especially with hurt and upset, negative emotions, so-called. And then in the mental area, how stress comes out of confusion but causes more confusion when it's not managed. And there's so much more to be said that we could do a series of programs. Indeed, this entire series, Finding Yourself in Paradise, is always a little about managing stress. That's the very first problem that anyone is going to face in the pursuit of self-realization, and anyone who's serious about finding balance, meaning, and a little bit of sanity in this world needs to know themselves, to introspect a little bit, and stress management is where all of that begins.
So it's really about learning how to feel safe. The people who manage their stress, what they do basically is manage their experience of danger in their world. They don't feel like they live in a dangerous world. If you feel like you live in a dangerous world, then you'll be stressed all the time. That's what the body's supposed to do in danger. But they understand that they live in a world that, although there is some danger, most of what they're experiencing as stressful isn't dangerous. In fact, it's just simply confusing. It's the misunderstood, it's the not understood, it's the unknown. So the first thing to do in terms of managing your stress is to understand what most of it is. Most of it's not a response to danger. Most of it is a reaction to imaginary danger, to the past, regret, remorse, embarrassment, shame, or the future worry, or anticipating bad things going to happen, pessimism. Those are the things that cause us so much of our stress. It's not actually even the negative thoughts or feelings that we have that cause us the stress directly. It's the way we react to them. It's the way we experience them as scary to us, so we tighten our muscles and hold our breath just as we would in real danger, and so our brain says this thing that we're worried about is dangerous, and we react to it, with a fight or flight response when there's nowhere to run and really nobody to hit.
Let's face it, life is a two-way street. There's that which comes at you, and everyone knows how it feels to be victimized, to be blindsided and caught off guard. John Lennon said, life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. But, John also said reality leaves a lot to the imagination, and both things are true. So while there is the part that's done to us, there's also the opportunity to respond and to initiate a new type of behavior. This realization that life can be more about what we do with what has been done to us than simply struggling against the stimulus. On a cognitive level, this is the one most important thing to know, that you're only a victim if you choose to view yourself that way. You can choose instead to be the one who substitutes even-tempered, well-reasoned behavior for those knee-jerk reflexes and responses.
And you may still be one of those people that has a more difficult experience of life. More bad things happen in your life, even though you're a good person. But it's not how the game is measured as how many good things or bad things happen to you. It's, again, what do you do with these things? What lessons can you learn from them so that the next time that something similar happens, you can experience it with less stress and become more safe? Again, it comes down to simply, stress management to me comes down to simply realizing that most of the time you are in fact safe, and learning how to do two things: to deal with the acute cause of stress in your life, which is that way you just react to your negative thoughts and feelings with fear, even though they're not dangerous to you, by tightening up and getting frightened by your bad thoughts. Well, learning to accept that bad thoughts are good because they're presented to you so that you can release them. There are stress opportunities to release stress. The negative thoughts that are causing the stress give you an opportunity to release your stress by releasing the negative thoughts. And the way, of course, you release something is to let it go, is to let go of your muscle tension, let go of your breath, to let go, to just let it go. Show your mind it has no power to make you tense up and make you angry and make you upset. Show your mind that it's just a thought. It's just a thought, and it can be released. And I think one of the keys to managing stress is the way you manage your thoughts and feelings. And the other key, I think, is what we've been talking about in the show all along, is find yourself in paradise, is find a way throughout your day to go visit this peaceful place inside, to let go of whatever stress is accumulated in the course of your day, just to let it go, to find yourself in paradise.
Physically, stress, carried as muscular tension, creates a variety of reactions, too many to even name, but the intention is to help us either fight or run and survive some danger. When we realize consciously that this stress is not coming from any danger at all, but simply confusion, what I don't know about what's happening to me in my life, and my inability to control or influence what's happening to me in my life. Again, most people just don't turn to the choices that they have available. They're so busy struggling against what's happening to me. And oddly, that resistance is where the stress comes from. And then it becomes like a feedback loop, like sticking a public address microphone into the speaker and it screeches, or like a tornado dropping down out of a thunderstorm. This vicious cycle of anxiety and confusion, creating more confusion and more feelings of anxiety, which confuses us even more, which frightens us still further, and around it goes. So how do we breathe and relax? This is the essence of stress management, and essentially say to the physical body, this is not about danger, this is about confusion. We don't need this rapid pulse and these tight muscles and all this adrenaline. Quite the contrary. What we want, what we're now consciously substituting, is peace, safety, relaxation, letting go. And now I get emotional tranquility, calmness, and peace, and a mental clarity and acuteness as well.
So as the brain releases stress, the physical body lets go of its muscular tension, replaced by relaxation. The emotions are letting go of whatever it's afraid of, whatever it's holding on to, and it's starting now to feel safe, and so it feels a sense of peace, of tranquility, of equanimity, of calmness. And then the confusion clears up, and instead of, your brain shifting back and forth between 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things at once, it goes onto just one thing, and it becomes real clear and focused on that one thing, whatever that one thing is you're thinking about. So all of a sudden, you go from someone who is in survival mode, like nothing really matters about me getting better right now, I just got to not die, that mode, to I'm not going to die. I don't have to put out any need to protect myself from, anything dangerous. I'm not going to die. And so instead, I can use all that power that I put into the fight or flight stuff in a different way. And instead of creating chemicals like adrenaline and sugar and all those chemicals that I use in fight or flight, now, because I'm relaxing and releasing, I can create different chemicals like endorphins and endomorphin that cause me to feel good and to not be able to feel pain and make it a wonderful, happy experience of life because I'm safe now. So I've got meat in the cave. I can now draw on the cave walls. I can now be artistic. I can now think outside the box. I can now feel safe enough to grow, to get better, to improve, because my survival is not an issue. I'm not in distress at all. There's nothing dangerous. It's just, it was confusing, it was emotionally difficult, and it was physically making my body tighten up, so I instead felt safe to let go of my tension, replace it relaxation. I let go of my anxiety, replaced it with this sense of equanimity, and let go of my confusion, replaced it with this focused focused passion, incredible state we call paradise.
Yeah, there's a reason physical illness is often called disease or dis-ease. There is a stress-related component to all illness. Now, sometimes people hear this and they jump to the extreme and say, oh, you mean all illness is psychosomatic? No, not at all. Of course, there are virus and bacteria and many other issues involved in health. There's also injury, for example, that the body would have to deal with and does deal with in quite an amazing way. The whole idea of the role of pain in healing, the relationship of the two, is something that we've talked about in past programs and we'll talk about in the future again, because it parallels the damage that stress does emotionally, causing emotional hurt and distress, anger and upset, and the mental confusion that leads to the cycle going around and around and around. We have to have enough awareness, enough training, enough exposure to the basics of stress management that we realize the importance of monitoring ourselves on a daily basis, hour by hour and minute by minute, to perform at our best by managing stress, so that instead of getting the disease and the physical level from stress and anxiety in our lives, we become healthier and stronger and we age more slowly. Emotionally, we'll talk more about this in a minute, we can manage our emotions with these same stress management tools and techniques. Imagine if you'd been calm enough to hold your tongue the last time you said something you regretted. You know, the minute you said it that you shouldn't have, but it was too late, it slipped out because you were stressed. You're going to learn techniques in just a moment. Very simple tools you can share with your friends for using stress management to manage your anxiety emotionally and mentally as well.
You know, you say, why should I have to learn how to do this? Isn't this something like people have been dealing with forever and ever, you know? Well, actually, no. This stress thing we're living in as a lifestyle is really new, and human beings really don't know how to cope with it. For the most part, they haven't had much practice. If you look in third world countries or if you look back in history, I mean, the vast majority of human beings lived a pretty stress-free life. I mean, uninspired people spent most of their life in boredom, punctuated by moments of high anxiety, and, you know, a lot of inspired people, whatever it was they were interested in, they were fascinated by something, and then they also had moments of high anxiety. But most of the time it was like either thinking about nothing much or thinking about something special. It wasn't really worrying. It wasn't really anxiety-ridden. It wasn't really a tense life when survival was handled. And when it wasn't, it was super tense. This being tense all the time thing, this being in stress like deadlines and due dates and timelines we have to meet, this concept of having to perform all the time, having to be on all the time, every decision being, like really important. This is brand new in human nature. We haven't had these many decisions. We haven't had this much information to process. We haven't lived like this for very long. So, some people are getting good at it. Most people are still struggling with it, but it's causing us a lot of stress. So it's understandable people would be stressed by this, but it just takes essentially waking up to that fact that I can respond to this instead of knee-jerk react to it. I can choose the way I'm going to deal with all this stuff instead of just let it overwhelm me. That awareness, that waking up, I think, is the first step in stress management.
The emotional part of this is pretty obvious. Stress is scary. It's a frightening feeling. Stress is fear as much as it's anxiety. Again, the body always experiences it as if we're hardwired, as if there's some danger, real or imagined. We're not even sure often, and does it even matter, real or imagined danger? But the vast majority of the time, one who begins to pay attention carefully to their lives, you realize the vast majority of the time that anxiety, that stress, those scary feelings aren't really about any kind of danger at all. They're just the fear of fear itself. It's the stress of anxiety. It's the nervousness of stress. It's the I don't know and I don't understand of things. And everybody has it. Everybody has anxiety, free-floating, sometimes called non-specific anxiety, that goes along with living the kind of lifestyle we're living. In an information-saturated age, there are just so many questions and so much stimulus and so much of, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I often don't know what I want. Truth is, I don't really know who I am or why I want the things I think I want, let alone what to do to get them, and it's all so confusing that there's that vicious cycle, round and round and round and round it goes. Fortunately, we have 3-4 decades, I think easily 4 decades now, of real good scientific research on simple tools and techniques for managing stress so that you can be more sensitive emotionally. The idea is not to never be angry or never be hurt. The idea is knowing how to manage your anger and your heartache, to face it, to understand it, and to almost in an alchemical or religious sense, redeem it or save it. This is simply moving from fear or stress, we're calling it in this program, being a feeling of things unknown, to the peace and the love, if you will, the harmony and the wonderful feelings of things now known and understood. That's the whole struggle. Stress management is ultimately relaxing and feeling safe so as to understand and continue feeling safe and relaxed.
The question that you have in your mind, I don't know, that thought, I don't know, could be either very exciting. It could open up curiosity, like, wow, here's a whole new field I can explore. Or if you're feeling unsafe, the I don't know makes you even close in. Oh, there must be dangerous over there. Wherever there is that I don't know, I know this is safe. So if there's danger, and there must be because I'm not feeling safe, it must be over there in the I don't know place. So what we're saying here is that if you can accommodate your stress as a thing that you allow to come through you and that you release. It's not something you hold on to or build or desire to contain within you. It's something that you experience, your experience of life, and then you release it and just continue to put a little hole in the top of the tea kettle of life, or put a little pressure release valve and let that stress go through you instead of accumulating in you. Then it won't have those debilitating effects that cause dis-ease and disharmony and the confusion that makes life so much more difficult to live.
You don't kill stress, you let it go. You don't conquer stress, you release it. You don't have to scrape it off you as if it's holding on to you. You accept that you've been holding on to it. Indeed, look at your tight jaw, at your hands when they move toward a fist, a holding on feeling throughout your body. Thousands and thousands of muscles all day long making these little micro movements, tightening against this, tightening against that, resisting this, resisting that, but never really knowing what it is at the source of this fear, never fully realizing that fear is the feeling of not knowing, and that that's all you need to know about fear. What are you afraid of? Why are you so worried? And we often find ourselves admitting, well, I don't know what I'm afraid of. Well, that's the point, don't you see? That's what fear is. It's a feeling or set of feelings that goes with confusion and not knowing. Rarely does it have anything to do with danger anymore. We got that from our ancestors, survivors, the ones that were really good at spotting danger and passing that along. But now we have challenges they never conceived of with all of the media and all that we attempt to do. We took all that spare time, leisure time activity that was promised us in the 50s and 60s and reinvested it in working 2 and 3 jobs and having hobbies and multiple cars and freeways that allow us to do more than any 10 people could have done 100 years ago. But the price that we pay is stress and anxiety. It's debilitating physically. It erodes your health emotionally. It hurts. It makes you angry, and it causes heartache and suffering. And mentally, there's just the echoes of this confusion that came out of stress, that caused the stress, that now is doubled because I'm confused about how to handle my confusion. But again, here's the good news. Your approach to managing stress, physically, emotionally, and mentally, is all pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's just letting the brain know it's safe. And in fact, probably the most powerful stress management tool I ever learned was a long time ago, which was whenever I have a bad thought, a negative thought, a fear thought, an anger thought, just take a deep breath. Instead of making it make me tighten up, let it make me relax and release. That right there. I mean, that. Now, of course, you have to have that programmed in ahead of time. You can't think to do it when you have the bad thought. Your mind has to have like an autopilot for doing that. And that was the most important thing I think I ever learned, was to create an autopilot so that anytime a bad thought popped out, automatically my response to it was to go, oh, boy, I'm glad I got that out of my system. Actually, I used to say cancel, that which came from Jose Silva. I used to use that technique, but I like release. You know, what the words don't really matter all that much, but that technique right there, and something I think is so cool is that this is easy to create. This is an easy habit to install in your brain, because right now your brain doesn't think it has a choice. It thinks if it's not sure if it's dangerous, act as if it's dangerous because it might be dangerous, and that's the ancestors that survived. Pass that one along. You know, that's what Michael was just talking about. We're descended from the most paranoid, so we got that implanted. Now all we have to do is let our brain know that the world is different and it's safe. So I think 3 days is all it takes. Some people would do it in 2 or 1, but 3 days is all it takes, really, to do a little exercise where you pay attention to all your thoughts and feelings as best as you can. Notice whenever you can notice that you're having a negative thought or a negative feeling, a worry thought, an anxiety feeling, a fear thought, a confusion feeling. And anytime you have one, just purposely go, boy, I'm glad I let that go, or boy, I'm glad I released that. The words don't matter. Just do that for like 2 or 3 days, and by the 4th day, you'll find a negative thought pop in your mind. You'll find yourself going, and you go, whoa, I just did that. I didn't even think to have to do that. That just happened all by itself. You see, as soon as your brain knows that it has a choice, as soon as it gets that I can breathe instead of not breathe, it will jump at the opportunity. Your brain is clear on one thing for sure. Breathing is good. Not breathing is bad. It loves to breathe. It hates to not breathe. Give it a choice. Show it that it can breathe in those negative thoughts, experiences you're having, and release them, and it loves the chance.
It's sort of funny if you think about it, the fact that we have this hardwired fight-or-flight fear response built in that is almost never appropriate anymore. You know, we've evolved to the point
so
where...
So rare. I mean, when the guy slams on his brakes in front of you, maybe. But other than that, I can't think of very many dangerous situations.
Driving on the freeway probably is the most dangerous thing most of us do. Other things feel more dangerous. Certainly fear of flying scares a lot of people. But if they, could rely on the statistics, they know they're safer in the airplane than they were walking through the terminal to get there.
It's funny, the place we feel like least safe, like on a roller coaster, we're most safe. And the place we feel most safe, like in a bathtub, we're least safe. Bathtub's probably the most dangerous place we ever go to.
So a fight or flight is about using this muscular tension and this adrenaline to either run away or beat up the danger. And then you realize, well, as is the case now, 99% of the time, this stress is not about danger. This is just confusion. What are you going to run away from? Seems if you ran away from confusion, you'd take it with you.
Yeah.
And what are you going to beat up on? What are you going to hit, right? So our whole idea of good over evil, of St. George slaying the dragon, needs to be lifted a notch, I think, to more understanding and ignorance, the way awareness and intelligence and creativity, consciousness and conscience and values, education, and self-realization add together to allow us to grow emotionally and mentally as well as physically, to evolve not only as a physical species, but to evolve intellectually and emotionally, and to evolve spiritually. That would be our consciousness or our conscience. And stress management has a very fundamental role in all of this. How are we going to transform our ignorance into understanding, to save it or redeem it, so to speak, unless and until we're willing to face that ignorance, to look right at it? Again, if it were a real danger, turn away and run. Fine. But it's not. It's confusion, and you're going to have to look at it in order to understand it. And so, as Steve said a minute ago, the only way out is through. We have to move into that which we fear rather than resist it. We have to feel the feelings we've been refusing to feel, to find that an understanding that then inevitably follows resolves all that hurt and anxiety, and you end up feeling those wonderful feelings of aha. I mean, you all know the feeling. Everybody knows the feeling of occasionally a spontaneous burst of awareness comes to you and resolves all those problems. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to go there on demand?
Yeah, because the metaphor can change now. I mean, the slay the dragon metaphor is a really excellent one because, for a long, long time now, the dragon has represented the evils, the danger out there, and it was necessary for the dragon to be slain so women and children could survive, so that we could have a civilization. Well, now I think we can take it to the next level, as you said, and we can instead tame the dragons within us instead of having to slay them now. Now we can learn how to live in harmony with each other. Now we're capable of not seeing the other as enemy. We're capable of seeing the other as potential ally, and we can tame the dragons of violence and of war and all those dragons. And I think we can tame the things that cause us to feel stressed. We don't have to, as we said earlier, we don't have to overcome stress. You don't beat stress. You don't kill stress. You tame stress. And stress only exists in the absence of relaxation. You put relaxation into stress and relaxation wins, It just dissipates stress. You put clarity into confusion and clarity wins. Confusion goes away. You put peace of mind into this anxiety feeling and the peace of mind wins. It's like the light into dark. It's like the heat into cold. It's like the energy makes it happen. I mean, relaxation overcomes tension.
Talking about domesticating animals, I think, is a wonderful way to describe this. In the old radio talk show days, people would often challenge me in my generally pacifist views by saying, well, you can't talk to those people. You can't talk to the terrorists. Benner, you're going to reason with them, right? And just lay down some of your liberal gobbledygook, and they're going to stop being violent. And I say, no, that's not it. Love your enemy is not really about concessions at all. It's about stop frightening them. Stop trying to make them afraid of you, because that's why they're an enemy, right? So you can't beat hate with hate. Dr. King said only love can do that. Gandhi, Christ, Moses, so many others have said exactly the same thing. Buddha, Muhammad, love is always the answer. The challenge is, what does it mean? Well, in the case of stress management, love is peace. Love is feeling safe. Love is relaxed. And that's how you domesticate animals. We've got... Right now, we've had dogs. Now we have 3 cats. All are rescue kitties. 3 different stories. In each case, though, they came from being essentially wild cats into the house. What it's all about is teaching them to trust and to love. You just make it incredibly safe for an animal to trust you, and all of this love comes out. Animals are as capable of love as humans. And The secret is just to stop frightening them, help them to feel safe. Now, in the real world of international intrigue and terrorism and warfare, it's going to take several generations. The peacemakers have always reminded us we need to work with the children, and each generation we get a little better, and then some people are just going to have to die off. But that's the hope of a peaceful world, is understanding that it comes from the inside out. A peaceful countenance, your ability to employ peace, feelings of relaxation and safety, to manage stress and fear and anxiety in your life, benefits you physically, in your health, in your performance, emotionally, managing hurt and having more happiness and love, mentally, being a better problem solver, better decision maker, and just living with greater clarity. That then becomes your gift to the world, to your family, to your community, to your nation and the world, to humanity at large. Peace from the inside out. That's a bigger view of stress management.
And so sometimes you have to sort of shut down the outside in to be able to work inside out. For example, take a day and, don't watch any television or read any newspapers, or don't get any input from media, and see if you encountered any danger at all, that it even occurred to you that anything was dangerous or in trouble or bad that day. Take a day off from that, because that's all really the media sells us, is all the stuff that's going on wrong in the world, because it's our own fault, because we don't buy good news. We never bought good newspapers. We never bought good news anywhere, so they give us bad news. And so, of course, it makes us feel unsafe, because when somebody gets hurt or killed or kidnapped somewhere in the world, we hear about it, so it feels like the world's a dangerous place. But, it's our own fault. If we bought good news, we could change this whole thing,
The journalism... I was going to say students. Journalists who are cynics in general will tell you that the real reason people read the news is to find out that others are suffering even more than you are.
I look better in comparison to the people that are dying of
I may
hunger.
be miserable, but I'm not in the newspaper.
Yeah, I think that's sad, and I think that's because a lot of people are pessimists, and pessimists sort of like revel in the "see, I knew that was not going to work" attitude. So, for whatever reason, if you're struggling with stress because it feels like you live in a dangerous world, then maybe stop listening so much to the media for a little while till you can build up your relaxation reserves, until you can let go of some of that accumulated stress so you're calmer and quieter inside, and now you're ready to start handling it again. Maybe take a break from some of that sometimes. And then what you can do is start to release the stress that's inside out, the stress that comes from worrying about the future, the stress that comes from being regretful, remorseful about the past. The only way out is through. You got to face that stuff. And, when you're not being bombarded by the media, it's a little easier and quieter in there. You can face a little more of that stuff, and it doesn't hurt all that bad, really. It's that worry stuff. You can face that and breathe and release it. You can face some of that embarrassment stuff from your past and release some of that. And every time you do it, you'll feel better about yourself for having done it. Regardless of how much it changed you, you did a good thing. You attempt to make yourself better. Your mind likes those experiences, and it regards you in more esteem when you do that. So take the time to look at those things that stress you, those negative thoughts and negative feelings, and create a habit in your mind of responding, not reacting, but rather responding to them. By releasing muscle tension, by letting go of breath, and by feeling like I'm not afraid of that anymore. I'm willing to let it go.
So just as stress and anxiety degrades and debilitates us physically, emotionally, and mentally, the benefits then of stress management will accrue in each of these areas. And so let's do an audio journey, a guided meditation into paradise, the alpha brainwave level, and talk about some of the benefits in each of these three areas that come from managing stress, and using 5 and 10-minute exercises like the one we're about to do. Let me hasten to add, though, I know Steve will remind us afterwards, too, this does not mean to say you always must have 5 or 10 minutes to do an exercise like this. You can, in a single breath, remind yourself to let go, to remind yourself that things are right on schedule. You're doing just fine. It's sort of like driving down the road. Every once in a while, you're going to check the dashboard to make sure there's enough fuel and you're not driving too fast and the water temperature isn't getting too high, but you're not going to dwell on that. You're going to spend almost all of your time looking at the horizon and the freeway in front of your car or the highway.
With an occasional glance in the mirrors. Got to do that occasional glance in the mirrors.
There you go. So the glance in the mirror and the glance at the dashboard is just that. Primarily our attitude is got to be a positive attitude on what we do want. So get comfortable. Sit straight. You don't have to sit rigid, but rather balanced and centered. Close your eyes and take a nice, big, slow, deep breath. Hold for just a moment as you peak, and as you exhale slowly, create and sense a feeling of relaxation throughout your entire body.
You might feel it as a feeling of warmth, or perhaps heaviness, or maybe it's a tingling sensation that your mind creates. But feel your body release all the tension and replace it with relaxation, which leads to inner peace. So this paradise place that you make in your mind, where everything's safe, and you always find relaxation and calmness and clarity too. This is a peaceful place inside of you. So whenever you come here, just coming here, you find that the stress that you had in your body, heart, and mind, they dissipate. They disappear. Your mind becomes much more focused and clear, and it's easy here to let go of fear, because no fear will appear. See, this is the place where you feel so safe that your body can just let go, and breathing becomes deep and rhythmic instead of fast and real shallow. And your mind can find all kinds of places that it wishes to explore. This is a place where you feel so safe that your mind desires more. This is paradise, and it's especially nice when you feel how much paradise allows you to heal.
Imagine yourself seated upon the earth, or perhaps a log or a tree stump, or maybe a really nice chair in a beautiful garden or in a wilderness place. Feel connected to the earth. Feel grounded and plugged in. As if you could imagine how a flower, a blade of grass, or a mighty tree might feel. A mighty tree might feel. Or a tree might feel to be rooted into the earth. To use stress management, guided imagery, and visualization for pain control and healing is to use the imagination to first feel the feeling. To release the pain, you must be sensitive to it. If you push back or try to resist the pain, it increases. It needs to be acknowledged. When you acknowledge the discomfort, any discomfort you may feel from injury or illness, when you accept the message, you get the memo, so to speak, you can let it go. And see your body healing in the same way, a time-lapse movie that you invent in your imagination, showing the injury or the illness improving in whatever way occurs to you, whether it seems very literal to your mind's eye or rather cartoonish. It's all in the intention, moving always toward the healing, the natural and the normal healing process. And then believe it, affirm it. Think of all the times your body healed itself naturally, when the pain went away all by itself. That's what your body wants to do, and it's cooperating with you right now.
So imagine just how it would be if you were to live much more stress-free. And your body's immunity system could be even more strong, more healthy, more powerful, more able to push along any virus or bacteria or whatever got in its way, and you can stay healthier and healthier day after day. And emotionally, you could feel calmness and that sense of peace of mind and a feeling of safe and tranquil is what you'll find, and that allows your thoughts to be clear and to be full of wonder and awe. And what would it be like with the less stress you saw? You could be smarter, you could be happier, you could be healthier too. Living with less stress has so many benefits for you. So imagine being that, healthier, stronger, smarter too. Imagine being that. Imagine that being is you, and set a course. Take a step. Begin the journey now to being healthier and healthier, and create it in the now.
And using stress management to heal our emotional pain is essentially the same process. Feel it. For if you resist it or try to push it away, it has to get bigger and stronger and hurt even more. Stop resisting. Instead, allow yourself to feel what you don't want to feel, to create the opportunity to understand, in this case, the emotional heartache, the grief, the loss, just the naked confusion, feelings of alienation and isolation, depression. Face it, look at it. Let it come upon you. Do not resist it. And in moments, in these levels of safety and relaxation, within moments you'll begin to understand something new that you didn't understand before, and the feelings will begin to fade, yielding to a greater awareness and less hurt, until the understanding replaces the ignorance, and you're at peace. Stress management, healing emotional hurt.
So you always can face it from here. From this place, you can handle any fear, because you can stand above it. You can be an observer. In this place, all fear is something you can release and allow yourself to replace it with peace. In this place, you have the power to face your fear, release your fear, and blossom and flower. And in this place that you can come to whenever you're confused, Whenever you just don't know what to do and your mind feels abused, you can come to paradise and all that confusion drops away and you find yourself in this peaceful place. And the thought that comes to stay is one of feeling safe, the thought of knowing you can. And it occurs to you that to regain command is to just ask the question, what do I want? Because that will lead you to what you need to do. And in this place of paradise, what you want will come right through. And make it even easier for your mind. Ask, what do I want the most? Because there's only one of those things. And of that your mind can boast. It knows what it knows. It knows what it wants. It knows what would be very best. And allow your mind in this paradise place. Put it to the test and ask yourself, what do I want? And once you find out, what you'll find you see is a lot of tension gone, along with a lot of anxiety. Once you know what you want, a lot of the stress can disappear. Once your mind is done with that, not knowing, then that fear of not being able to know, and it finally feels clear. A sense of accomplishment replaces that feeling of fear. So find yourself in paradise. Come here every day, many, many times if you can, and always find a way to release the tension, release the anxiety, release the confusion too. Find a way to release all of the stress and bring out the best in you.
And so we conclude with a single positive thought. Choose one. Yeah, trust your first impression. A positive goal, a solution, a desired outcome or result. That one. And reinforce it with a strong, high-amplitude, positive emotion. Whether it's a sense of accomplishment, victory, success, or just the wonderful feelings of enthusiasm that always go with doing something you love to do and you know are doing well, and that will allow many others to benefit besides you. And see that manifesting physically out into the world. Your dreams are the seedlings of reality. Thoughts are real things. To reap what you sow is to reap a thought form, a dream that you dream now in this place. Free from stress and anxiety. Build your castles in the sky. That's where they belong. And see yourself putting foundations under them as you prepare now to open your eyes wide awake, remembering, bringing to mind the room you're in and what you'll see in a moment. Reorient to our voices, inhale, and bring with you this wonderful idea, this positive goal that you saw manifesting for the greater good of all concerned as you open your eyes wide awake, feeling rested and yet energized, all alert and recharged and ready to go and take some action steps as if that outcome is a done deal. Now you better get ready to receive it because it's on its way for sure.
To me, the two keys to managing my stress was to fall in love with the idea of a deep breath when I have a negative thought. I just love the way that I do that. It feels so cool because I like my negative thoughts. They make me feel good, you know. And this idea of going to paradise regularly. I mean, I do it every time I take a sip of water. I can take myself to paradise. Those two things, I think, really do it. I mean, the letting go of the negative thoughts and feelings manages the acute cause of stress in your life, and then the letting go just on a regular basis by going to paradise sort of lets go of the building up chronic causes of stress in your life and keeps those stress levels low. And when the stress levels are low, it's amazing what comes up. You know, that's where your genius can come from. It's not that you aren't really smart. It's just that sometimes you aren't able to access that smartness because there's too much going on. There's just too much stress. So let it go.
You're not your thoughts. You're not even your feelings. You're the part that can choose to learn from them, manage them, but ultimately let it go and be the observer, be the witness, be the conscious experience of life right here, right now. Loving, loved, and lovable for the greater good of all concerned. It's really about growth and understanding who you are and getting better and then helping other people. And so use that gadget at focusedpassion.com. Remember the ED, that's focusedpassion.com. And right under the built-in player, once you log in, you'll see a button, share one with a friend. Send these programs out. It won't cost you a penny. That's part of the deal. Broadcast these to your friends. The people you know will really appreciate this kind of information. And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.